Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Skool Morning Show. Do you like online communities? Do you have an online community? Do you want to make an online community? Do you want to monetize an online community? Do you want to build an online community? Well, the Skool Morning Show, exactly what you're looking for. Isn't that right, Jen? You like my energy for the day?
Yes, you said you were going to get weirder every time with that, and you really have.
I don't plan this at all. I zero planning. It's just whatever comes out of my mouth is what I'm going to say.
Nice. That sounds very, very on brand.
Yeah. I mean, it should be
for how
right?
this show goes sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
You
Today's
never
going to be a
know
great
how many
day. It's
dad
Wednesday.
jokes you get. Yeah, it's
Wait.
Wednesday.
We have a special guest, but I'm not going to bring him up just yet. But it's one of my favorite people that we interviewed a couple of years ago. And there's still things from that one 60-minute interview that I've taken with me all these years. And so I'm excited for all you lovely people to also hear how awesome he is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that when you told me that he had a school community like a while back, I was like, I know we had talked about Skool, and I know he had joined Skool back then when we did our original interview with him, and I was like, really? And you were like freaking out. You were so excited, and I was like, well, now I have to look into it and see if it's like an active community and if he's gonna be on there, because like I was gonna obviously join it. That was like a no-brainer. But
I was like, can I share? Can I share? And you're like, no, let me message him first.
let's like make sure he's ready for people, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really exciting. I don't think that my life has ever been the same since having him help me with things. So I'm very excited for people to hear what he has to say today.
Yeah.
So
Me too.
let's get into it. But before we go further, how's your weather? I know yesterday was crazy.
Yeah, our power was out for 5 hours yesterday, and it was terrible. Today, it was hailing this morning.
Oh,
And now it's like beautiful sunshine, so I don't know what happened.
Okay, perfect. So we
Yeah.
have sunshine for the morning show, so we should be good.
We're
No
good.
outages.
We should actually be able to finish an entire episode today. What about you?
Same here. Well, not sunny, but it's a little bit cloudy. But there's supposedly no thunderstorms rolling in during this time frame. So I don't know about tomorrow or Friday, but we'll wing it. You know.
Yeah. Here, let me show you this. This is who we're bringing up today. Before I bring him up, I just want to tell you a little bit about him. This is Jordan Lawson of the Proof Lab, procrastination coach. He's got a bajillion followers on social. Really, really smart guy. He was the guy that taught you the marble thing that you talked about a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to get into that too. But helps you solve procrastination. And I know for a lot of entrepreneurs and especially schoolers who have ADHD, it's a hard topic. So. Yeah.
Yeah. So he is our schooler shout out today because obviously he's here. And one of the things that I felt like was really cool. So before he comes up here, I want to share. He introduced a new way of helping people and like closing a sale or whatever. And it was by providing like immense value that would actually give them a quick win. And then not even saying anything. Like, I actually had to pull it out of him. I was like, so what is your offer? Like, I want to know. Because he had said, he was like, this is like a call that's going to just purely help you, and it's not going to sell you or anything. And so he kept his word, and that was really cool. So
Yeah. And now he has a group.
now he has a community, and I missed the call last night, which I was sad about. But it reminded me, like, there's all these little reminders that, yes, I need to be on top of it. So there's things I was procrastinating that I did last night.
Oh, good. I'm sure.
Spirit.
There you go. Well, let's bring him up.
Yes.
Hello, Jordan.
I love the sound effect. All right, guys.
How are you doing? Was that a good enough intro?
That was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, good.
Nice. This is highly different than being on TikTok, right? Like on TikTok, you have this whole setup and everything, and it's like this moody lighting and stuff.
Moody.
I'm glad you like it. I've worked very hard to just running experiments and seeing what I like necessarily. I don't know if it's what people like, but I try. I've changed the setup, I don't know, dozens of times. never settling.
It looks
I
good though.
like that.
Yeah, I like it.
It's one of those things where that's something I really admire, something that you help me learn and remember, like reinstill into my daily activities is like everything can be an experiment. And that's so helpful. So like I like that you're saying like even your setup for being on lives, you're doing experiments all the time. So
Constantly.
what made you first realize that experimenting was the way to go?
I am a recovering procrastinator, of course, and I'm also a recovering perfectionist. And perfectionism is really just procrastination in disguise. It's my brain is afraid that if I try something, I'm exposed to the risk of what if I fail? What if people don't like me? What if it's a waste of time or energy or money? And my brain wants to keep me safe and alive and preserve my resources. So it makes sense to be afraid of risk. And a lot of times with me, I've struggled to put myself out there because my priority was getting short-term results. I wanted proof that, hey, look, what I'm doing is working. I was so focused on, getting some sort of indicator that in the short term that I was smart or that I was successful. And what I learned, of course, years of study and lots of failure along the way, that if I could change the goal from short-term success to what did I learn, it was so much more valuable to me in the long run. So, I like to teach this as, if you're a cancer researcher, you run 100 experiments, you fail, and then finally on the 100th one, you cure cancer. How exciting, right? But if you don't know how to replicate the results of that experiment, you kind of just got lucky. And how valuable is that to you? So you cured cancer once, great. But if I can't replicate it, if I can't do it again, it's not that useful to me. And how many times have I had success that was really just variance? I got lucky. And I would rather say I want to be successful not just for today, but for tomorrow, and then the next tomorrow, and then the next tomorrow. And so prioritizing learning rather than short-term success is the way to overcome any sort of perfectionism that's rooted in procrastination.
Nice. Always like a value punch. I feel like when you answer these things. I know Eric was going to ask about Proof Lab. Well, how did you come up with the name?
I had a couple options. Chat GPT helped me out. I was like, here's what I'm thinking. Can you give me some options? There are two main concepts that I teach. One is this idea that what we crave most of all as humans is proof that what we're doing matters. And if I don't have proof, or if I can't predict consistently that it's going to matter, then I don't feel motivated to do it. And so a lot of what I work with folks in the Proof Lab on is how can we create proof where there is none, giving myself supplementary proof. Every time I read a book or do a live stream or answer an email, it'd be so nice if it was like a video game and I got +1 intelligence or +1 business acumen. That doesn't happen, right? So I have to create some sort of proof that what I've done has mattered. And then the second part, the Proof Lab, is that we're all scientists making educated guesses, hypotheses, running tests on ourselves all the time. And if you can formalize this process, you will improve so much faster. And the idea is, okay, can I create proof that what I'm doing matters? And can I encourage myself to prioritize learning rather than any sort of short-term success? So I married these two ideas. And is it a good name for a group? I have no idea, but that's the experiment that I'm running.
Love it. That is amazing. We already have a funny comment, which I think we want to bring up here. Eric, are you able to pull that one up?
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
Okay. Have you heard this one before?
Give me 1 second.
All right.
From James. He says, I was going to make a comment, but I kept putting it off.
Yes. They always make me chuckle. I've heard, I don't know, thousands of these sort of comments, but people are very creative, and there's always a new way to to tell this joke. I appreciate it. All of my family and friends and coworkers and whatnot, it's always like, some variation on, hey, procrastination, right? And so I'm used to it by now. But I like it.
So we interviewed you a couple years ago. For everybody that doesn't know, one of the things that stuck with me all these years is when I was procrastinating, I always thought that I was doing it just because I was lazy. But you told me that, okay, if you think about the type of person that would call themselves lazy, they're actually probably a high achiever. And so I'm just putting all this pressure on myself to do all of these things. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm lazy. So what is the reason that people procrastinate?
That's a really good point. I love that idea of a lazy person would never call themselves lazy. They wouldn't care, right? It's only the person who has aspirations of more that feels guilty about not doing more, and that's not actually helpful. But to answer the question of why do people procrastinate, it's very simple. It's a defense mechanism that is triggered by emotional discomfort. If I have a pile of dishes in the sink and it's up past the faucet, right? Just a giant mountain. Solution number one would be to confront the problem by washing the dishes. But this takes time, energy, and it might be uncomfortable while I'm doing it. Solution number two is, what if instead of confronting it, I just run away and distract myself? If I don't feel anything, I can't feel bad. So I run to Netflix or to video games or to take a nap or to doom scroll. And then the problem is sort of solved, at least to my subconscious brain. So my instinct, a lot like taking my hand away from a hot stove, is to run away and avoid and distract to solve the problem in the short term. Now, that doesn't make you a bad person, because it's not you who's choosing to do it. It's an instinct to protect yourself, to keep yourself safe and comfortable. Everyone procrastinates. And so if you think that you're lazy and a bad person for doing so, well, then so am I. And I just don't think that that's true.
Yeah. Wow. That's really good. So what would someone do to get started? You said they need to get proof. What exactly does that mean? How does one get proof for themselves to help them stop procrastinating?
Good question. There's two main ways that I discuss motivation. One is motivation by consequences. The other is motivation by rewards. I think everyone understands those intuitively. The way that you probably were raised is the same as everyone else. It's this do this or else sort of motivation. When you were a toddler, when you were in school, if you had a boss at some point, it was always, here's the consequence, and I'm going to use fear and pressure and manipulation to get you to do this thing. However, when you try to use those tactics on yourself, it rarely works. You know, I can hold a gun to my head all day long, but that doesn't mean I'm going to actually reinforce the consequences. So when you're in charge of the consequences, it's not something you can count on. And when somebody else is in charge of the consequences, sometimes it works if you fear the consequence. But a lot of times it just motivates us to do the bare minimum, which is why if I have a deadline of Friday and there's no reward for doing it on Wednesday or Thursday, I'm just going to leave it until Friday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, to give an example, I do
ahead.
that every single day. Like, so I'm a podcast producer. That's what I do. And I have that external consequence, because if I don't get this podcast to them by the release date, well, then they're not going to be able to publish their episode. They're probably going to fire me, and then they're not going to pay me any money, and then my family's going to starve. But because I get caught in that cycle of doing that, I will literally wait to the last day. Sometimes like here, the last hour. Sorry, guys, here you are. We were actually talking about this yesterday, talking about when we're launching a community or launching something, about setting a deadline. So how would you, that's the extrinsic motivation. How would you go do the other side of it?
Well, the intrinsic motivation is all about rewards. And to give your example a little bit, build on top of it, what is in it for you to finish the podcast early? Are you guaranteed to get paid more? What happens if you do a really great job instead of just an average job? Is there anything in it for you in the short term? Usually the answer is no. And so any sort of deadline or consequence-based motivation, it's incentivizing you to do just enough to get by. I like to think about it as, when you're running away from a bear, you don't have to be faster than the bear. You just have to be faster than the guy next to you.
Yeah.
So I don't have to do a great job when I'm doing this podcast. I just have to do it well enough that the person isn't dissatisfied, and I have to do it on time. And that's the structure that I've created either for myself or that's been given to me. And we all went to school, right? We all had some sort of, job, and even if you're an entrepreneur, you're still working for, your boss is the client. And so essentially a lot of the structure is do this or else. If you want to do more than the bare minimum, you can, but you have to shift to, instead of the extrinsic of do this or else, it's got to be an intrinsic do this because of what's in it for me. And when I say rewards, people often think of, okay, I'm just going to give myself more money or extra screen time or candy or some sort of material reward. And what I'm telling you right now is that those don't work either. A material reward is not that different from a consequence. So if I say, okay, Eric, I'll give you a bonus if you can complete this early. Well, now, if I don't complete it early, then I don't get the reward, which is sort of like a consequence, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I don't have a material reward, what other rewards are there? And what I teach in the Proof Lab and in my one-on-one clients, I teach emotional rewards. And this will take like 90 seconds to teach, but it's just the most important thing that you could take away from today. So I want you to imagine you just finished a big project. You launched your school or whatever it is. You've been working really hard on something for a long time, put in a lot of time and effort. You finally sit down and you're exhausted. And then all of a sudden in the room walks your favorite teacher, mentor, coach, somebody who you really look up to. And they walk in and they say, hey, I watched you the whole time. I saw how hard this was for you. And there were so many times that you wanted to give up, but you didn't. And I want you to know I'm so proud of you. If I could bottle that feeling and sell it, I would have more money than Jeff Bezos, right? That is the most rewarding feeling in the world. And if you can be that mentor, teacher, coach, if you can be that for yourself, who do you love more in the world than yourself, right? Who do you care more about in the world than yourself? And so being proud of yourself is a really, really amazing feeling. However, we don't feel proud of ourselves unless we have proof that we should. It's so easy for us to poke holes in it, right? Go ahead, Jenna.
What would you say to the person? Because sometimes I come across people that will challenge you and be like, no, I do not love myself. And, well, one, that's like a sad situation to be in and stuff. But there's people that would probably be like trying to battle you on that front.
Of course.
So how would you tell them to go about with the emotional rewards if they are in that state? Because they're going to still need to overcome procrastination while they also learn to love themselves, or at least admit that they do.
Someone who is saying this is not wrong for saying it. What they are experiencing is a lack of evidence. What proof do I have to say that I am worthy of self-love? And a lot of times the way that they collect evidence is the problem. Now, I would never ask someone to be, faux positivity, to just, try and manifest that, oh, I am smart, but not having any evidence to back this up, right? That it's not ever a problem of like, I'm not smart enough. It's usually that the way that we collect the evidence is the problem. So don't lie to yourself and say something that doesn't feel true. If I'm asking you to love yourself more, it's not going to work. It's like telling someone who's upset to relax. Like, no, I don't want to relax. Stop. What I need is proof that I can relax, proof that I can be proud of myself, which is why a huge part of my teaching is this idea of collecting accurate data on yourself. You are the CEO of yourself, and a CEO needs accurate data in order to make informed decisions. And all of these emotions and these biases, they cloud your judgment and your ability to collect data. And so you're looking at like, you sell teddy bears, right? You got blue ones and red ones. And you walk into the store and you just saw 5 people bought red ones. Nobody bought any blue ones. So you say, hold the phone. We're not making any more blue ones. We're only selling red ones from now on. But then if you look at the data from the past month, you see it's like 90% blue ones, and you just made a rash decision based on what just happened. We do that all the time for ourselves. And so if you feel like, well, I'm unlovable, I'm stupid, I'm this, I understand why you feel that, and I felt that way too. And the way out of this is not to gaslight yourself into thinking that you are worthy of love or pride. It's to start collecting data in a more formal way that shows you, oh, maybe I am good at this. Here's some proof that shows me that I can't argue with.
Always so good. So how do you feel about deadlines? So like when we're talking to people that are on Skool, you would know this as well because you're the one running your experiment, your community. We have to come up with when things need to be done, which means that you could always end up giving yourself a deadline and then not hitting the deadline.
That's true. Deadlines are not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's really, if it works, like, don't fix it. You know, you don't need to change something that's already working. But if you notice that it's not working, now we have something to talk about. Even last night on my call with somebody, I asked her to set a goal just to see how she might phrase it. And she said, I want to do this by Saturday. And then we talked about it as a group and said, when you set a goal and say, I want to do this by Saturday, what does your brain hear? How do you expect that you're going to respond to this? By Saturday means I'm going to start it on Friday night. So why not instead say, I want to do this on Friday night? Instead of saying I want to do it by this time, what if I phrased it instead and I want to do it at this time? So many times we're just aspirational goal setters. We think we can accomplish so much more than we think we can in a certain time because we want to be the kind of person who can do that. It's like when I go to the bookstore and I buy 14 books, even though it's going to take me more than a year to read them. Right? It feels great to buy the books, but actually sitting down and reading it and doing the work like that is a little bit less rewarding. So when it comes to the goal setting, you want to find ways to use evidence-based goals to say, okay, I've set goals of, I want to do it at this time and this is how long it's going to take me. Imagine I said, I want to go to the gym 5 times next week, but last week I went to the gym 0 times. What evidence do I have to support that sort of goal? And so sort of a meandering way of answering your question of deadlines. I think you can set deadlines as long as you see that those work for you. But if they don't work for you, the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting that the results are going to change, that I'm just going to try harder and things are going to get better. So change the way that you phrase this goal and see how that helps. Maybe instead of saying by this time, I want to instead focus on when I start rather than when I finish.
Nice. I had a question regarding people that may be using procrastination in more of a, like, the fear of success. Like, it's almost like a self-sabotaging kind of way. They come up with great plans. They have great plans, but they don't execute on them. And this is not... I always have to say this because I talk to a lot of people and they'll be like, oh my gosh, you're calling me out right now.
It's about me.
No. Yeah, see, Eric might say it's about him, but there's probably other people that I could get a message from being like, hey, why'd you say this? But it is like a problem that a lot of people encounter. How do you help people that are like, I would consider them high achievers, even if it feels like they're not taking action in certain areas?
It's a great question. It has everything to do with identity, to how I see myself, the story that I tell myself about who I am. I think a great lens, especially for us schoolers, is thinking about the price that you make your school. Because if I'm selling a product that is a physical material item, I'm selling marbles, it's very easy for me to just say like, okay, $5. But when I am the product, it becomes about self-worth. How much am I worth as a person? And all of our insecurities are rooted in the way that we see each other, ourselves, and comparing to other people. And I think that a lot of times our fear of success is rooted in, am I this person? And so if you want to solve this problem, you can. It's not going to happen overnight. And what you need, again, is proof that you are that person. If you can see evidence that you cannot argue with to say, oh, like maybe I am really worth this amount. Like people were willing to pay this amount and they didn't blink at it at all. I've been doing this for years, and I charge, frankly, a lot of money for my one-on-one services. And every time I've raised my prices, I have to have this conversation with myself. Like, what am I worth as a person? And there's a lot of resistance there, tightness in my chest to say, saying this number, is that how much I'm worth? Of course I am, right? And if you have evidence not from yourself, but from other people, as an experiment, just the next time you're going to try and sell something to someone, say a crazy number and see how they react. Let that be the evidence to say how much you are worth, rather than any sort of insecurity-ridden self-evaluation.
That's true. And I had your one-on-one services. In fact, there's already comments about the dishes example. Because I still have to give myself marbles to do the dishes, because I do not like doing the dishes to this day, and will never. But yeah, how's that dishes example hitting? But I did use your one-on-one services, and there are things that I still use to this day that help me overcome like those barriers of, I could do this later, I could not do it at all, right? And so I think that even what I paid you for one-on-one, I'm like, that wasn't probably even enough for how much I got out of it. So just want to validate that for you and for everybody listening. Like, even when you do go through like trying to figure out your pricing and stuff, it is sometimes it'll still be, no matter how much you charge or how much you thought it was worth at the time, it was still more valuable than that. So what would you tell somebody that is going to need to go get that proof? But they're still at that beginning stage.
If you were an athlete or a musician or some sort of performer, or even better yet, if you were a coach of one of those folks, it'd be so easy for you to break it down into small steps, to find ways to give positive reinforcement, to prove to that athlete or singer or whoever, like, hey, what you're doing is working. Here's proof. But when you're doing it for yourself, suddenly it gets so complicated. All of your biases, your emotions, your insecurities, they really cloud your judgment. And so the best thing that you can do is make it more objective, to get out of your own head. And the way to do that is to start writing things down. It's such simple advice. You're like, okay, duh, Jordan, write things down. Yet so few of us actually do this. I don't let any of my clients leave my services without having some sort of self-evaluation procedure. They have to be able to say, okay, I got to the end of the week. What went well? What didn't go so well? What do I want to work on for next week? How am I measuring success? That should take you less than 60 seconds, and you could probably answer it from under the covers in your bed on your phone, right? You need to find ways to make it easy and safe and useful, but also we want to get out of our own head, because when it's in your head only, we move the goalposts on ourselves all the time. You say, okay, here's my goal for the week, and then you get to the end of the week and you're like, well, yeah, I did that, but I didn't do this, and I should have done that, and all this extra stuff where I keep moving the goalposts further and further, never feeling like a success. And then because of that, it triggers all the procrastination because I feel so bad about myself.
That's a really good point. In fact, it made me think about when I've talked to a few people, they end up having another reason for procrastination is like their excuses that come up, right? Like something happened. I could probably come up with an excuse for any moment. I think that we probably all have PhDs in excuse making, right? But what would you say to somebody that's like has like the really valid excuses every single time?
If your brain doesn't want to do something and it finds an excuse and presents it to you, if you are able to say, no, that's not true, then your brain will find a different excuse and present it to you. And if your brain says, oh, that's not true, then your brain will find an even bigger excuse and continue to present you with excuses because it's afraid of doing whatever the thing is. It doesn't matter what the excuse is. If your brain is uncomfortable, it's going to keep directing you away from the thing. It's trying to protect you from danger. And so having excuses is not a bad thing, right? We have to figure out, okay, if I actually want to do the thing, even if I have some sort of fear of it, there's two levers I can pull on. One is, can I make this feel safer, less scary? And the other one is, can I make this feel more rewarding? So a great exercise would be, and I'll put this to both of you, if you wanted to get me to do 100 push-ups right now, how would you motivate me to do so?
Money.
That's interesting.
Okay. You want to increase the reward. If there's a number that is appealing enough, I will maybe do anything to get that number. I'd be doing push-ups right now if you put $1 million on the table.
True.
Safer. It's like what kind of push-ups? They could have been wall push-ups too, you know? It doesn't even have
Now
to
we're
be...
talking about making it safer, right? Making it less scary.
That's interesting.
That is good.
Now I'm going to be in like deep think mode all day.
So let me bring
love
up
it.
another procrastination thing. So I know for me, I'll wake up in the morning, I'll see 500 things that need to be done throughout the day. I'll get decision fatigue, and I won't do any of them. So I guess I could ask you, how do you decide where to point that energy? Because I do have energy. It's just there's so many options. Which one do I choose?
I remember having a client last year, and her thing was productive procrastination, where she was always choosing lower priority tasks because they were straightforward, simple, easy, quick. And the whole time she's doing this very like she'd just go into her company's like Teams or whatever, and all these people would post their problems, and she'd be like, oh, I'm going to do these very visible, simple problems, and all the while these invisible, very difficult problems are going to continue to pile dust. Well, if you think about what your brain wants, it wants some sort of validation, some sort of proof that, look, I'm smart. It's working. I'm feeling good. If it's visible, then other people are seeing it. So that feels good. If it's short term, then I can achieve success in one sitting, which feels good. And so a lot of times when you are looking at that list of things, the things that are getting put off are the things that don't have any sort of short-term reward, or are multi-stepped, or are vague, or are confusing in some way. And so if you can recognize what it is about the task that's making you put it off, it should help you to find a solution. I mean, we all resist the idea of baby steps, right? Because
Right.
I'm not a baby. I'm an adult. I can do hard things, yet here I am not doing hard things. So what if I made this easier? I pulled on that lever that said, how can I have less overwhelm and more reward? How can I make this feel like I'm making a difference and getting closer to the finish line instead of I just spent 5 hours on this and I'm not sure that I even made any progress?
Yeah. There's this, you might have seen her. There's this lady on TikTok. She has this series called How Long Did It Actually Take?
Yeah,
And
I've seen her.
So she'll do things like, I haven't cleaned out my garage in 3 years. And so she's doing things that she had procrastinated on, and she'll time it with the video. And it turns out it only took 10, 15 minutes or something. And so years of waiting, it turns out it actually wasn't nearly as hard or took as long as she thought it would. It's just that getting started, that was the hardest part.
The hardest part was not getting started. The hardest part was overcoming the guilt and the shame that she had, that she'd tied to the task. Because the longer you put it off, the worse you feel about having put it off for so long. And I experience that all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And so it doesn't matter how small of a task it is, even if it's 30 seconds. If there's been, like a quarter under your desk and you haven't picked it up and it's been 6 months, and every time you look at it, it's like, oh, I should do that, but then you don't. Like, it doesn't matter how simple the task is. It matters the story you tell yourself about whatever the task is, and that's where the resistance comes from.
Yeah.
That's, ow, ow, you hurt me with that. Because it is like a guilt shame kind of feeling when there's things you should do, but you don't do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think also we were just talking yesterday, Eric loves mowing the lawn. And it's funny, like I was giving him a hard time about it just because, it's Eric. But I actually, one of my first businesses that I helped with had to do with like lawn care and lawn maintenance. And because during high school, I put myself into lots of different businesses to help out with so I could see all the different ways that those businesses were run. Mm-hmm. Lawn care was my favorite because it was so physically, like, you can see what changes immediately.
See what changes. Yes.
That's why
Yes.
I like it. Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
Mowing your lawn is so rewarding. I saw it. And then also, other people come and look at your lawn, and then they go, hey, your lawn looks really nice. Like, it's all these different moments of feeling that reward. Like Eric was saying, didn't your kid say that he saw the neighbors mowing, so he knows you're going to mow?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny.
Like a dog. It's like once they start doing it, I gotta do it too.
So I have a question for you both, actually. I think that, I can't remember where I read this, but something like 1% of people actually finish self-guided video courses. And the three of us know the value that's in self-guided video courses. But also, this is one of those things where, unlike mowing the lawn, I could watch 3 videos and nothing has happened. I don't have any proof that it has mattered. And so I have my own opinions on how to help my school members to feel like it has mattered. But what do you know about this?
I'm in the 99% that usually doesn't finish them, the courses.
Yeah. So I always had this joke where it was like, I don't know how many Frank Kern courses I bought that just sit in my email,
Right.
because he's really good at selling them. And then it's just like, oh, I'm not going to do the course itself. One of the things that I really appreciated about in a school that I joined was at the very end of every single lesson, they told you, don't forget to hit mark as done, because there's a progress little, like it's going to say 0%.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it moves it up. And I also like that
should add
lets
that to
me know
mine.
if something new was added. Mm-hmm. So
That's a great idea.
that was like that physical, like, ooh, that progress bar. Now I need to go do the next one.
That's exactly what I'm saying. We need proof. If you can see it, if you can feel it, then you feel motivated to keep going. And if you can't see it or feel it, you are not motivated to keep going.
This is a comment from James. He's talking about that. We were talking about overcoming that guilt, shame. You'll have a community for a while. You don't make any money with it, or you don't see any progress, and then you just kind of fade off. And then it's getting back, trying to revive it. It's really, really hard because you quote unquote failed.
Let's talk about that. That's a great point by James. So much of any inner work, whether it's religious or it's, there's so many different ways to talk about it. Like all the inner work that people do, it's all rooted in the same thing. It's attachment to things that I wish were happening rather than what is actually happening. I wish this was happening. I wish that it wasn't so hard to go back to this community, or that it was successful, or whatever it is. We have this desire, but we're fighting against what is. And that's where a lot of the guilt and shame comes from, is that I don't want to accept that this thing hasn't worked out the way that I wanted it to. And we also often think that if I fail once, well, that labels me as a failure forever. And this is a very human thing to experience. We're all so afraid of what people are going to think of me or what I think about myself, and not wanting to feel these uncomfortable feelings. Think about, tribe members, your ancestors. If they were kicked out of the tribe, that was a death sentence for them. So they were always worrying about whether they would be accepted or not, always trying to people please to fit in. And if you want to overcome any of that resistance that you have to jumping back into a an old community, you can, but it won't happen until you can, what a therapist might call, have radical acceptance of what is happening. Have some empathy for who you are and what you've experienced. Now, if I told you that my dog died this morning and then you saw that I was a little bit sad on this, live stream, you'd probably understand and have some empathy for me. Yet when those things happen to yourself, it's always, no, you should be strong. You should be doing this, and you're not. And it's all this pressure and guilt and shame. And when has that ever been an effective strategy for you? So what I'm asking you to do is take your foot off the gas, have some empathy for yourself. And what is sort of counterintuitive is when you do take your foot off the gas, it will actually help you to be more productive in the long run. The more you are fighting your current circumstances, the harder it's going to be to confront that thing. So take off your armor, put down the sword and shield, and just give yourself a little bit of empathy, a little bit of grace.
I think that's really important. In fact, that was one of the things I think we talked about a lot, was having empathy for yourself. And I feel like it was also like the permission to be a human, right? Because we're all humans that living these human experiences, and then we almost give ourselves like this non-human kind of character thing where it's like you have to be better than even a human. And it's like, man, the bar is so like what? So low or high? I don't even know. Yeah, stop shooting
shooting yourself.
It's funny.
All those what ifs. So, is there too much empathy you can have for yourself?
I think a lot of us are very resistant to this idea of, I don't want to enable myself to procrastinate more, right? And instead of checking up on yourself every hour or every day, maybe check up on yourself every week when it comes to that. Collect evidence on yourself, like we talked about. And if it does truly start to become a problem, then you can make a change. But a lot of times we're so afraid to take our foot off the gas because of what society and capitalism has taught us. We should always be working hard, pedal to the metal. Sometimes that's not the most effective strategy. There's the Carl Lewis method. He's a Canadian sprinter from the 80s. His coach pioneered this idea of, instead of trying to sprint at 100% capacity, you should try and sprint at 85% capacity. Because when you're pushing yourself as hard as you can, the muscles are actually a little bit too tight and you don't run as fast. But when you're running at 85% capacity, you're a lot more fluid and your performance is actually improved. So it feels counterintuitive. I should be trying 100%. But if you actually take your foot off the gas just a little bit, you'll find that the engine is going to run a lot better than if you're just flooring it.
Yeah, I used to go live about 4 hours a day, every single day without taking a day off. And I did that for a long time. And then one day I burnt myself out and I took like a year off just because I couldn't bring myself to do it again.
I believe that.
Speaking of shitting yourself, and also you mentioned like checking weekly. Like when do you think you should look at the data?
Whenever it feels right. If you feel like you should be looking at it more, then as an experiment, try looking at it more. And if that doesn't feel useful to you, then look at it less. I tell all of my clients that they should generally try and check in with some of their own data every month or so. But if it's 6 weeks, or if it's 2 months, or if it's 3 months, the main thing is not when you do it, it's that you do it. And something I'm always saying is, don't aim to be consistent, aim to be persistent. Because like Eric said, just trying to do it every day without fail eventually does lead to burnout, and you got to listen to your body sometimes. And so, it's okay to take a couple days off. It's okay to listen to those excuses if they do sound reasonable. Like if I'm sick or my kid's got a piano recital or something, like those are understandable reasons to not be doing the thing. I don't live stream every day. There's a great strategy. I think this is Katie Milkman thing. She's a professor at University of Pennsylvania. She talks about instead of saying, I want to do this 5 days a week, you say, I want to do this 7 days a week, but I'm going to give myself 2 skip days. It's the same goal, but you're baking in a little bit more psychological safety, a little bit more flexibility to say, oh, like I don't have to use my skip days, but I know that they're there. And so I don't feel bad when I take a day off. And a lot of times that I'm going to do this 5 days a week, it really ends up being like a Monday to Friday thing. And then as soon as you miss one day, you feel like a piece of shit. So if you can just bake in strategies to your goal setting that are going to help you to stay persistent rather than consistent, you're going to be a lot more successful in the long run.
I did that with the flame, the little emojis on School.
Yeah.
I had it for a long time, and then one of those days I accidentally missed it. Only had 9 activities instead of 10. And then I was just off School for a while. It's just a little dumb thing like an emoji to set me off.
Yes.
I lost mine on purpose. It's one of those things, I don't want it to control me. And then
Exactly.
my kid looks at me and he goes, Mom, get off your phone. And I'm like, oh, that's even a better reason to be like, yep, I'm going to lose it on purpose today. I know that we've talked about this before, but like the different cognitive biases. So you were talking about the red and the blue bears. Which ones do you think come into play when it comes to procrastination?
There are dozens of cognitive biases that might have some sort of effect on the way that you operate and collect data on yourself. I've dialed it down to like 3 or 4, and in my school right now, I have courses specifically on 3 of them. One of the most important ones is negativity bias, and this is usually where I start all of my clients with just an awareness of this. So the story I tell is called The Snake and the Stick. You're walking down the sidewalk. All of a sudden, by your ankle, there's a snake, and it jumps out of the grass and bites at your ankle. And you already know how you're going to respond here. You're going to run, jump, scream, ah, right? You turn around after a couple of steps, and you look back, and you see that it wasn't a snake. It was just a stick that you stepped on the wrong way, and it sort of bent and hit your ankle. And you feel so silly after doing this. But I want you to think, in this moment, you expected or assumed the worst. You assumed the worst, and it protected you from danger. And so being biased towards assuming the worst is actually a benefit to you. It keeps you safe. And if you swapped this and instead assumed the best, you looked down and saw a stick when it was actually a snake. Now you're vulnerable to attack. And so it makes so much sense to pay more attention to the possible negative effects, the things that might bother you. So if you compare this to modern life, you are always scanning the horizon for potential dangers because your brain is trying to help you to stay alive. Mm-hmm. You pay way more attention to the mistakes that you might make and the mistakes that you've already made because your brain is telling you, hey, don't do this again, or don't do this because it's going to be bad for us. And if you were to take all of the things that happened in your day and put them on a spreadsheet, what tends to happen is all of the negative things get bolded, highlighted, and underlined, and all the positive things are like size 6 font, really small and hard to see. And you can see this about yourself, and anyone listening, just go through this exercise for me really quickly. Give yourself a 1 to 10 rating on the last 7 days in terms of how well you met your own goals. Just pick a number. I'm not going to ask you to share it. And then I want you to justify that rating. Start coming up with reasons. And most times when people answer that question, they only think about the reasons that they didn't give themselves a 10. Even if they gave themselves a 9, they're hyper-focused on all the things that didn't go well. And so negativity bias is all about I'm collecting evidence in an inaccurate way where I'm seeing the negative things way more than I'm seeing the positive things, which can often convince me that maybe I'm not good at this. Maybe I'm a failure. And so I'm not asking you to lie to yourself and say that you're better than you are. Instead, I'm saying collect the evidence in a more objective and truthful way. See things for how they are and not for how your paranoid brain who's trying to protect you is presenting them to you.
I like it. And I remember that stick one. We deal with lots of snakes here, out on the 20 acres, and a lot of them are actually like copperheads, right? So they or cottonmouths, either one. And so it is every stick looks like a snake. And I remember your little thing to remind me about negative bias, and I get that reminder often. I'm walking in fear all the time. All right. But yeah, I think that's one of those. I like the fact that you're acknowledging it is natural. It is to keep you protected, and if it wasn't that way, it would be bad. Like something would be wrong if you didn't do it that way, because it almost it gives you permission to kind of just like let your shoulders relax,
Yes.
like, rather than having guilt and shame that you are in the negative, right?
If there's one takeaway I would hope that everyone has from when they talk with me, it's that they understand procrastination is not your fault. It's not a character flaw. It's not that there's something wrong with you. It's a defense mechanism. It's part of being human. You're just trying to protect yourself from what your brain perceives as danger. And if you feel like you procrastinate more than other people, well, first of all, you don't really know how much other people procrastinate because they're too ashamed to tell you how much they actually procrastinate. So it's like looking at somebody's Instagram and, oh, they're so beautiful, but they have makeup and filters on every photo, right? So first of all, you need to embrace this. And then second of all, that it is very human to procrastinate. We all do it. And that you shouldn't beat yourself up for something like being right-handed.
Right.
Okay. You didn't have any choice in the matter. This is the packaging that you came in. So if you want to overcome it, you can. It starts with having a little bit of empathy for yourself. This is a very human thing, and you just need to reparent yourself to figure out how can I have more courage or feel more safe or feel more rewarded for certain behaviors. And if I do it enough with positive reinforcement, eventually they'll become subconscious habits and I won't worry about it anymore.
That's interesting. Now, Eric, I wanted to see, because I know you're very generous with your time, and so I do want to make sure we jump into this last part, though. Eric probably has better questions to ask, though, in regards to TikTok, because you are on TikTok.
I am.
What is your main traffic strategy right now? Like getting new members for your community? Like I've been seeing you on live. Is that like what you're doing right now? It's like your main way of getting people?
Yes. I've run lots of different experiments, lots of different platforms. What I've seen for me is the top of the funnel is usually a live stream. When I look at my data from a live stream, I go live for like an hour at a time. I'm getting 90 to 95% are new people to me, right? So this is the top of the funnel. And then the next part of the funnel is all of my videos, because every time I get a new follow, then they're going to see 3 or 4 of my videos within the next day usually, right? So this is what's warming them up. And I think for a lot of folks, they're going video first and then live stream. And my experiment is to say live stream is actually the top of the funnel, and that's how I get folks in.
Yeah.
And so in the past, it was all about converting them into doing a free consult, turning them into one-on-one clients or maybe a small group every couple months or so. Now I'm running an experiment because I want to see if this is a better way to help people. So I've actually taken the link to my website down, and I'm just put the Skool website right at the top of my TikTok page. So we'll see. My Skool has only been open to the public for 29 days, but I have a lot of good data and a lot of good feedback. I've been recording my live streams, and I run it through just like a transcription, and then I put it into ChatGPT, and I say, you're my speaking coach. Give me the highs, give me the lows. What do I need to work on? How can I get 5% better? I get lots of compliments on my ability to speak and to teach. And I want everyone to know that this does not come easy. This is something I've worked my entire life on. I really take seriously how helpful phrasing things in certain ways can be, that it's so much easier to have a metaphor or a story to teach an idea rather than just straight up telling you what to do, because those are the things that you remember well after the fact. And so I've got dozens of these strategies that I'm doing. I remember one of the funniest things I saw was that I had a phase of my life a couple months ago where I kept saying certainly Like, I would say it like every 3 sentences. I'd be like, certainly. Why am I saying this? I felt like Fraser Crane or something like that. So I have eliminated that word from my speaking. But we all have these things that we don't realize we're doing because we are our own worst critic, and we're also terrible at collecting data. And so if you can get objective, sometimes the hardest thing to do is to listen to yourself speak, to read your own writing, whatever it is. But those are the ways that you're going to grow the fastest. So hopefully that answers your question. But I've seen that connecting with people in real time, providing value, sometimes they don't even believe it. They're like, is this a video? This is so polished. I don't know. I don't think that I'm as good as people think that I am. But
no, you really are. It's live streaming is a skill.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to get to where you are, where you can continuously talk for that amount of time and be coherent and sell and teach and do all of these things. You're absolutely crushing. And I've been trying to tell people, like, if you have a very broad niche, like with yours, like everybody procrastinates,
right.
It's really the best platform you can do. Are you using like the Service Plus feature, or are you just sending people straight to your bio? So there's
just sending people straight to my bio. I've tried doing that other stuff. I don't know. I haven't seen it be effective for me yet.
Gotcha.
I wanted to also say that I met you on TikTok via TikTok Live. Mm-hmm. And then I went into your consultation, and your consultation had so much value that I was like, oh, well, obviously I'm going to become a one-on-one client. Alex Hormozy released or not Alex, but like Skool released the Skool games, and Alex Hormozy was talking about how doing lives can get people from trusting you pretty immediately if you provide really good value.
Yeah.
Some people, I feel like, get a little scared sharing that much value for free.
Oh,
but
yeah.
How have you seen that be actually what gets you clients?
I very much vibe with Alex and his whole just give everything away for free idea because I've seen it work. I've got proof that it does work. Mm-hmm. And what I say all the time is that you don't need me to solve this problem. That's not what I'm selling. I give everything away for free, but I know that if you work with me, I am so good that I will just be a way more efficient way for you to solve the problem. You're paying for speed. So it's like if I wanted to build a house as an amateur contractor, like I could figure it out if I gave myself long enough to do it. But also, I'm not good enough to build a house yet. So what if I just paid somebody else to do it for me or to help me? That's what we're all doing. Like I could figure out how to do anything if I gave myself a long enough runway, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to find someone who's great at helping me.
Right. You want the safer route, which is the safer and the more rewarding.
Exactly.
Quicker, lessen the distance between.
I want to guarantee.
Yeah, exactly. I've really, now I'm more noticing I'm using the word exactly a lot.
Exactly.
Certainly.
Love it. I noticed, like, with your Skool community, you're doing the classrooms and you're doing one call a week, right? Is that currently how it's going? For now?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Yeah, I'm new at Skool. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. But what I do know is that what I think is the right thing is rarely the right thing. I have to listen to my community. I have to ask questions and not get defensive and be like, oh, maybe I should offer this and this and this. And so I'm already thinking about probably moving to a 2 time a week just to make sure that people can make them. Time zones are my nemesis.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I'll figure that out eventually. But by all means, listen to your community and ask them. Just not trying to sell them. Something I did at the beginning of TikTok, which really changed my life, I credit a lot of what I do now because of this, is I sent so many cold DMs, and every cold DM that I sent, there was zero intention of making a sale. I was not looking for money. I was looking for information. I was trying to figure out, what am I speaking about that is resonating with you? And then I hear what people say, and then those are the things that I talk about. Even still to this day, after I do a TikTok live stream, TikTok gives me a list of all the people who've listened to me talk for more than 20 minutes, right? And I'm just so honored that someone wants to hang out with me for an hour. Like, that's crazy to me. But people do it, right? And so something I'm talking about might be making them want to keep listening. So how can I provide more value? Well, what if I just ask them and I don't expect anything in return? Generally, most people aren't going to respond because they don't even know where the message function is in TikTok. That's not what they use it for. But sometimes people will respond and give me really great stuff. So take that and use it.
Yeah,
that's
great.
gold.
That is great. One little thing, you can try it or it's up to you. But one thing that I've seen that's working, that something that builds urgency on TikTok lives without having to be like slimy and salesy or anything, is just to say right after this call, we're doing a call in the community. And so now you have all these people in here that are already available listening to you. They can go ahead and jump in a call right away. I don't know. Little thing, I thought it was cool. But yeah.
I might try that.
Everybody,
that's a good idea.
Go join Proof Lab. And let me bring this up too. Just if they want to see just how to do live streaming on TikTok, go follow you here at Jordan Lawson Coaching.
Oh, look at that goofy long hair. Oh, my girlfriend still makes fun of me for it.
I remember the long hair phase. And I remember the video that you had where, remember when you threw all the papers up in the air? My kid made me watch that one so many times, and that's like an OG video.
Oh, man. That is... I keep all of my goofy, like, beginning of TikTok videos. They're so bad. Like, if you go all the way to the bottom, just my energy is so low, my lighting is bad, my sound is bad. It's important for people to know that what you see as more polished now started somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And if you can see someone who you respect failing, like I think Ed Sheeran went on Jimmy Fallon or something and played an iPhone recording of him singing a truly awful song. And to see someone who's so good at what they do perform it badly, it gives you permission to fail. You need to feel like, oh, well, if they're not perfect, then I don't have to be perfect either. And all of a sudden, the resistance that you feel, the fear, the perfectionism-based procrastination, it lessens and it becomes easier for you to do it because you feel what's called psychological safety. The more you are allowed to make mistakes, the fewer mistakes you actually make. That has changed my life and so many people's lives. If you are feeling like, oh, if I make a mistake, I'm not going to get fired, all of a sudden you feel free to be creative and to share your ideas and to work your best. But if you feel like, oh, if I'm going to make a mistake, it's going to be detrimental and I'm never going to recover from it, well, then I'm just going to play it safe. I'm not going to take any risks. I'm not going to challenge the status quo.
Yeah. And that's why I like live streaming, because if I bomb today, well, we got one tomorrow, and then we got one the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like you said, there's new people, so it's not like the same people are going to be seeing.
It's always
you.
new people.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask too, because like I know that this might not stay the same, but how do you feel going from? I kind of remember what your prices were 2 years ago, but you started off with $25 a month, and when I went in there, I was like, whoa, there's lots of like, dang, this is the whole kebab, right? And how did you decide to do it with $25 a month, I guess, and instead of, because you were selling people on like something way higher previously,
Oh, sure.
and it was working.
Yeah. I mean, if I have a group that's got, hundreds of people on it and has multiple calls a week and has an established, ecosystem, it makes sense to charge more. And I know that I'm very good at what I do, but I also feel like this is a fresh start. 25 to me seemed like the good number, but it's not like it's going to be 25 a year from now. This is all an experiment. If it works, then I'll raise the price. And if it doesn't, then I'll change the price again. We'll see. Nothing is set in stone. So I have a therapist who I really like who has a school, and hers is $25 a month. So I was like, all right, if it works for her, I'm going to just start here.
I like it.
Awesome.
Well, definitely for everybody listening, jump in while it's 25.
Right.
I'm not trying to manufacture urgency or anything. I have no schedule on when I'm going to raise the price. I just know that there's only 22 members in here, and it will grow. I am great at what I do. I really enjoy helping people. It's the most fulfilling life you can imagine. But I also understand that my demographic sometimes has a hard time jumping into new things. I completely understand this because I often do too. Sometimes I want to, do more information gathering and, make sure that this is going to be worth the price. And, I don't know how Skool does like, what would you call it? Like giving your money back or something like that. But something I believe very strongly with, and I talk to all my one-on-one clients about this. The way that I structure it is either you get the results and you pay me, or you don't get the results and then I give you the money back. So the pressure is not on them to succeed, it's on me to succeed. And if you can take away that fear, it gives people more certainty, more control, and that will limit some of the resistance, that tighten the chest feeling you get when you're about to make a big decision. So I don't know how I'm going to advertise that for the Skool, but that is something I believe in very strongly.
Yeah, that was really cool. And I want one more question because I think it's going to be helpful for several people. When you were going in there to create your Skool community, right?
Yeah.
It looks like you started it back in like February, March.
Yes.
And we're working on it, and then you released it April 1st. How did you go about creating your content? Like, did you struggle with procrastination on making the classrooms?
No, but only because I knew what was likely to trigger me. So I did an intentional soft launch where the last thing I wanted to do was to like spend months trying to perfect something, because I've made that mistake in the past. Like, when is it finally going to be ready? Oh, I have to tinker with it a little bit more. So instead, I launched it before it was finished, and I just built it while I was working with people. So I have an email list. It's got like, 700 people or something on it. And I sent a couple emails to them and I said, hey, I'm doing a soft launch. It's free if you want to join it. It's mostly people who I've had a one-on-one call with or have worked with in the past. So some of my old clients joined. Some people who maybe had a one-on-one with me, but money was an issue or just decided not to work with me joined. And I had, on the weekly calls, I had 2 or 3 people that would show up weekly. They gave me feedback on what their experience was while I was building it. I made changes based on what they were telling me. And then by April 1st, I felt like, now it's ready to go. Is the Skool finished? Not at all. But it's finished to a level where I feel like I can promote it now. All of my classroom materials, I think I've got like the first 4 levels finished, but level 5 is still a work in progress. I will get there in time, but I also know that if I waited until it was quote unquote finished, that would trigger my procrastination.
Yeah, I'm going in there right now, and I see that level 5 is the identity and long-term change.
Yep.
Work in progress. Check back soon. I like that.
I'll get it. Yep.
It's a work in progress.
Just like me.
And they have to make it through level 1 through 4 first, anyways.
Of course, they'll get there, and I'll finish it probably by the end of the May or something like that. But right now, my priority is getting folks in there, building up the calls, building up the community, and tinkering with it to find ways to meet their needs and to help people the best that I can.
Well, one tip that I know and I recommend to everybody still is to go to Schoolers 101, the Skool 101 inside Schoolers. There's some really good things that they touched on. And one of them for like churn is make sure people get to level 3. Make sure that they have the right onboarding so that because you're right, it is new. People are going from TikTok where it's easy and scrolling and they get all those dopamine hits to Skool where it's like mellow.
It's not as easy. It's got to be more like you have to be almost disciplined and have your own willpower and intrinsic motivation to do that. And I know that most people don't have that, especially if they're coming to find me. So you have to make it easy and encouraging and feel safe and feel rewarding. You have to talk about wins immediately so that they know, like even just showing up for this live stream is a win. Even just showing up for, joining this Skool is a huge win. What does this prove about who I am? That's a really powerful question to ask someone. I asked somebody this on my Proof Lab live last night, and she cried. She didn't even answer the question. She just started thinking about, well, I did this. What does this prove about who I am? That's an emotional reward. That's what we're trying to create.
I almost wonder, so you have the the marble thing, which if you want to know more about the marble thing, join the community. I'm going to say it because he doesn't say it. I'm going to say that I think it would be cool to have like a category that's called, like, you know how you have your wins? People have like win categories and stuff like that. And then what if you had like a marble category where it was like, if this was so many marbles and you just feel like you have to tell somebody that you did something, kind of like the post that you said the other day where it was the glass air fryer.
I remember that, yeah.
It looked really complicated. Mine's still not put up, but it would be fun to tell that to people, like once you accomplish those things that
it's an extra reward, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, ideally, we don't want all the rewards to be external. We want to teach ourselves to be able to feel rewarding just for doing it. But certainly, I'm not going to tell people to not post those things. Like if it helps, then you should do it. I don't want it to be the only tool in your toolbox, but I'm not going to stop offering that because having some validation is really important, especially at the beginning. You need to hear from somebody who's been there, hey, this matters. And you're going to get where you want to go. And I know that because I've been there. And you're not the first client I've ever had either, right? So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how I think about it.
Gotcha. Because like I think everybody as a school community owner, or even people that are helping schools, it's like, how do we get people back into the school and make it sticky, right?
Yeah.
So they continue to go through everything, right?
Mm-hmm. I think about that all the time. And I know because I'm someone who has done this too, like I might not always check my school notifications, but I'll probably read my email. And I know that most people are getting emails from school notifications. Now they might not respond to them, but they're probably skimming and reading, the title of it. And so if you can have things where you're reminding your folks to come back to the school that aren't adding pressure, but are instead adding safety, that are saying, hey, like you don't have to do all of these things, but I bet you want to do some of these things. And if you do come back to it, what will that say about who you are and what you can accomplish? If you can make your community a psychologically safe place to be, where it's not all about shame and toxic competitive productivity, you're going to see better results in the long run. In the short term, it might not be as strong of a motivator as a gun to the head, right? But you're going to lose so many people if you hold that gun to the head and say, hey, you haven't been here in a while. You should come back. I see that you haven't been here in a while. It's just, it's so triggering for their avoidance and their shame. And that doesn't make me want to come back, even though intuitively that's what we feel like should work.
Well, I'll come back tomorrow for the procrastination people.
Right.
Yeah. Really cool. Well, thank you so much for all of this. Is there any takeaways that you got, Eric, from this one? Because I know you loved the first interview we did. Is there anything from this one that you're going like, dang, that hit home?
It's just so funny when you're talking. It's like he's talking to me.
Well, I am.
Well, yeah, you are literally talking to me, but it's just really interesting. Avoiding the triggers, that's a big one. That's something that I'm gonna be looking out for. But yeah, I mean, there's this. I'm probably gonna go back and listen to this again because it was just an hour of straight value.
Well, I would love if you could send me the transcript so that I can put it into my AI and it can teach me what I can do better. Because if you don't, I'm gonna figure out a way to do it myself. So.
It'll be on YouTube, and I will absolutely send it to you. But thank you so much. I think
it does it after 24 hours or something, just so you know.
Yeah, but I can get it sooner than that. I can get it sooner. I got a way.
Eric is the whiz at all these things.
Pro.
Yep.
But thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. And I think we're going to end it here. Thank you for your time. And join the Proof Lab. Gosh darn it.
Yeah, it's really safe and very rewarding. Yeah. That's what I'm going to go with. Safe and rewarding.
Thanks, Jenna.
All right.
Honestly, I couldn't ask for anything more.
Yep. Bye.
All right. Bye.